So are banks too big to fail? I guess the quick answer is yes. By the government actions that we've seen in the US and that we would see here in Canada if I think we had a banking crisis here, I think the simple answer is yes. Do I agree with this? Absolutely. I think banks are too big to fail. Now, I'm not here to say that investors in banks, owning shares of banks, owning bank debt, bonds of banks, these people should be, or these investors should be protected. I don't think they should. I don't think investors that are investing in bank stocks should be protected any more than investors investing in any publicly traded company are protected. But I think the deposits of individuals should be protected. It's not that small business's fault that a bank fails and that now if they had more than in Canada 100,000 in their bank account, they would lose everything after 100,000. Or in the US, it's in each bank account is insured up to 250,000. I think that all deposits should be insured. This is our hard-earned money. This is money that we earned working at our place of business or in our small businesses, or that we earned regardless of where we earned it. This is our money. This is not investing in something or buying debt and then taking on some risk. Bank deposits should be insured. That's my opinion. It's interesting, you hear a lot of the US commentary saying banks are too big, banks are too big. And yet at the same time, they say how great the Canadian banking system is. Well, I laugh because in Canada, we're dominated by pretty much 5 or 6 banks. In the US, they have so many more banks down there. We have under 100 banks in Canada. In the US, they have over 4,000 banks. You go to a smaller town in the US, you find a small regional or community bank. In Canada, you go to a small city here, Northern Ontario or wherever, and what do you see? You still see TD or you still see Royal Bank. So it's interesting when they talk about too big to fail and they say how good our banking system is, we're in the same boat. And possibly even that saying too big to fail even applies more here in Canada. But during the banking crisis, what we saw, and next chart that we have will show it, is a deposit shift between smaller banks and larger banks. You can see on the left side, during the crisis, small banks lost a lot of money. And where did it go? As you can see on the right side of this illustration, they went to the large banks. And so big banks gained a lot more. And that's why you saw a lot of the smaller banks' stocks fall. They also fell for another reason, which we'll get to in the next segment. But when individual investors heard that there was a run on, especially the smaller banks, that many people were taking deposits out and moving them into larger banks, it just snowballed and got worse and worse and worse. And you saw what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, or you saw what happened with Signature Bank in New York. These banks lost deposits, and deposits went to larger banks. And I have some of those larger banks here, some charts on Bank of America. And it's interesting because even though a name like Bank of America gained deposits during this time, their stock prices fell dramatically. Maybe not as much as a smaller regional bank, but they fell dramatically. Here's Bank of America chart. We have a chart of JP Morgan, the largest bank in the US, largest bank in North America, one of the largest banks in the world. Look at their chart. And you can see how much their stock price has fallen. And then you think to yourself, well, that's the US. I live in Canada. Not so fast. We have a chart on TD Bank stock. Look how far TD Bank stock has fallen. Yes, you can see here, nicely regained some of its share value, but still well off its previous highs. So even a TD Bank lost a lot of its value. So the crisis in the banking system, yes, was more to do with smaller regional banks. But understand that when you own an ETF, a basket of bank stocks, and when there's a crisis, people just sell the overall ETF or the basket. And TD Bank might be in that basket, CIBC might be in that basket, Bank of America might be in that basket. And unfortunately, these bigger banks get pulled down with the regional banks, and everyone is left wondering, what is the next shoe to drop? Where is the next crisis going to come? Will it spill over to the larger banks? And that's why you saw a lot of these banks fall in value. But in my opinion, these banks are too big to fail. And we saw this clearly over the past, over the past month of March. And I think in our country, banks will always be too big to fail, and deposits should be guaranteed indefinite, because I think this is hard-earned money from all of us that we earn at our place of work.